Why is Facebook not working? Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram are down for users due to major power outage. A major outage has caused Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp to crash. The three popular apps are all owned by Facebook and are run on a shared infrastructure. Why are Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp not working? They stopped working for users shortly before 1700 due to a major power outage. Messenger and Facebook Workplace have also been impacted. Users are also reporting issues with Sky and O2 outages across the UK, with issues beginning shortly before 1700. Big social media is still in big trouble. Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook and Messenger experienced widespread outages Monday morning, and many users around the world cannot use some of the most popular sites' Facebook services. While this is not unknown, the length of the outage is very rare and it is not clear when they will be back online. Last time we saw far more services impacted by the outage, and at the time of writing this seems to be limited to just Instagram, WhatsApp and Facebook's other services. Those last outages were due to a bug in the domain name system (DNS) of these services, so while we can't say for certain, it may be a similar thing again. The CEOs of Facebook, Twitter and Google will face Congress on Thursday to discuss misinformation and defend the liability shield that helped establish their platforms. In written testimony that will be delivered to the House Energy and Commerce Committee, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter's Jack Dorsey discussed how their platforms reflect the society at large. Our society is deeply divided, and we see that on our services too, Zuckerberg said in the remarks. Dorsey talked about the trust deficit that impacts the entire information ecosystem. Testimony from the three CEOs has become a regular occurrence in Congress over the past year as the companies have been pushed to defend their competitive practices and content moderation policies. Thursday's hearing will be Zuckerberg's fourth testimony before Congress since July. It will be the third for Dorsey and Google Sundar Pichai over that same period. Zuckerberg plans to tell Congress that political and hateful content makes up only a small fraction of what Facebook users see. Political posts account for only about 6% of what U.S. users see in their news feeds, according to Zuckerberg, and the prevalence of hateful content users see is less than 0.08%. Zuckerberg will outline the steps Facebook has taken to combat misinformation on the company's platforms around the election and COVID-19. Facebook uses fact-checkers to help debunk false information and seeks to crack down on pages spreading and monetizing false content. The company has invested in local news and promoted authoritative sources about the virus and vaccine to promote vetted information. He also plans to discuss Facebook's efforts to remove hateful content from its platforms, which have resulted in over 250 white supremacist groups and 890 militarized social movements being removed to date. Facebook has been enforcing rules to prevent QAnon and militia groups from organizing on its platform. It has also banned hate groups including the Proud Boys, Zuckerberg will say. Finally, Zuckerberg will advise lawmakers on how they should reform Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, the law that protects platforms from becoming liable for their users' posts. Zuckerberg will tell lawmakers they should focus on transparency and consider making the protection contingent upon companies' ability to meet best practices to prevent the spread of unlawful content, instead of holding platforms responsible for individual pieces of content that fall through the cracks of its policies. Zuckerberg will argue they should be assessed on the adequacy of their systems to address unlawful content. What constitutes an adequate system should depend on the size of the platform and set by a third party that ensures the practices are fair and clear, according to Zuckerberg. Dorsey's testimony will focus on the trust deficit that exists on tech platforms and beyond. In his written remarks, he detailed how Twitter plans to earn the trust of its users by promoting transparency, making its procedures fair and giving users control over their privacy settings and the algorithms that influence what they see on the platform. Twitter is also experimenting with two projects it hopes will help it combat misinformation. The first is Birdwatch, a pilot program that lets Twitter users weigh on information they believe is false to add relevant context. The second is Blue Sky, an independent team funded by Twitter working on creating open and decentralized standards for social media. Dorsey said this system should help less resource startups tackle abuse and hate speech more easily. ICHAI will highlight Google's work to surface authoritative sources and combat misinformation around the election and COVID-19 pandemic. In his written testimony, he discussed Google's investment in journalism training and resources, add grants to government agencies and nonprofits to run public service announcements about COVID-19 and additional safeguards put in place ahead of the 2020 election to verify advertisers. Each of Facebook's apps remain down along with the desktop services for each of Facebook's platforms. Down Detector, a website that tracks outages of online services, shows that all are struggling right now in many territories. There's also reports that services with accounts tied to Facebook logins, like Airbnb and Strava, are not working. There's currently no way to avoid the issues, so you'll just have to wait until they've been solved to reconnect to WhatsApp, Instagram or Facebook. The company is reportedly working on a fix, though it's unclear when they'll be resolved or which will be fixed first. We've yet to hear a reason for the outage, but we'll update here when we know more. Facebook's communications executive, Andy Stone, was the first to share an update on Twitter to say the company is aware of the issues and it's currently working on a fix. Shortly thereafter, Facebook's official account acknowledged that users were having trouble accessing the company's apps and products. WhatsApp's Twitter account also shared a similar statement on Twitter, beating Facebook's account to acknowledging the issue by minutes. Some users have also reported issues with the company's Oculus virtual reality gaming services. Noted Facebook and Twitter data miner Jane Manchun Wong warned users via tweet not to restart their Oculus devices during the outage lest they lose their games. VR game and software designer Julian Dora tweeted a video of what it's like to load up Oculus in the midst of the outage. And the outage might have affected Facebook's real-world infrastructure as well, according to New York Times reporter Shira Frankel. A Facebook employee reportedly can't even enter company buildings due to malfunctioning badges. None of the Facebook, WhatsApp, or Instagram accounts have explained what originally caused the outage, leading to speculation and analysis. Brian Krebs of cybersecurity firm Krebs on Security tweeted his conclusion that the DNS records routing traffic to Facebook sites and services were simply withdrawn this morning. In a follow-up tweet, Krebs clarified that it's still unclear why the change was made, and could have been erroneously caused by a faulty update. As Apple Insider noticed, Cloudflare SVP Dane Nick tweeted an observation that Facebook DNS and other services are down and their BGP routes have been withdrawn from the internet. He noted that Cloudflare also saw its own failures, but a follow-up tweet suggested it was recovering. Outages are increasing in volume and can often point towards a cyber attack. But this can add to the confusion early on when we are diagnosing the causes, said Jake Moore, expert at cybersecurity and antivirus company ESET, in an emailed comment to TechRadar. As we saw with Fastly in the summer, web blackouts are more often originate from undiscovered software bug or even human error. March and April 2021 saw a major outage where each of Facebook's services affected today, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger, was down for over half an hour each time. It may be a similar issue, as it is impacting the same series of Facebook-owned apps and services. These are information we have got. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.